Hello, YouTube. Coach Lee Smith, Blood and Iron Martial Arts. And today's topic is side coaches and why they're one of the most important things you can have in a church. Now, the term side coach, corner coaches, back coaches, there's a bunch of different terms. Really, what it is the person who's by your side on the defensive match. And this position is one of the most important people in your team, not the most important for a competitor. And choosing a good side coach is critical when you're facing someone of an equivalent skill level. I'm going to break down why this position is so important. And then you can see why side coaches are not just important, they're essential to overall success of the tournament. Reason one. Side coach keeps the athlete focused, especially with newer fighters, people that don't have a lot of experience. A tournament is a high stress situation. It takes several tournaments to get under somebody's belt for them to start feeling comfortable and relaxed when they enter the ring. So you'll see athletes, newer people especially, quite tense. They don't fence the way they do in sparring. Sometimes they even fence slower because they're tense and they're overthinking the moment. The side coach's job is to keep the athlete focused, but yet keep them relaxed. For a newer fighter, they might enter a tournament, get a point against them, maybe it's a bad point, and then they start rethinking what they can do. And that will then lead to this downward spiral. A good side coach helps mitigate. Even if the loss is going to happen, they can maybe drop that point that a little lower. Maybe it's only a 2-point spread rather than a 6-point spread. But when there's no one at their back, and they drop 4 matches, all by a large point variance, that can be a hard thing to come back for folks. Reason 2, suggesting strategy attack. Now, an experienced fighter like myself, for example, and there's a bunch of them out there, in the corner of a newer person, even another experienced person, can give the fighter a different look. Maybe they notice something that the fighter himself did not know. And then they could be like, that person's leg is open. Maybe that person is moving weirdly on one side. They took an injury. The side coach's job is to notice these things and at the same time, know their athlete well enough to know their strengths while assessing the opposition's weaknesses. 3, and this is probably the most important one, especially for safety, is keeping control of adrenalized fighters. This is critical. You're fighting this. Guess what? It hurts. You're going to get hit hard. You're going to get adrenaline. It's like this in any martial art. And you're competing. And as the stakes get higher and higher, and the further you advance in competition, your level of stress will rise. This is just how it is. The side coach's job is to realize and know their athlete, and to make sure that they can mitigate the effects of that adrenaline. If they notice maybe their fighter's a little jittery, maybe they have a little too aggressive, maybe they're back talking the rep. That is the side coach's job, to ensure that fighter A doesn't get themselves kicked out of the tournament, and B doesn't give up the match due to some bad decision making to one. Being a good liaison between the fighter and the ring boss. Some tournaments now, they don't allow this, which I think is a mistake, because an adrenalized fighter can't always decision make rationally. It's just something that we kind of have to understand. Your corner coach, their job is to make smart decisions. If they notice their fighter takes a severe injury, like, I'll be honest, I have fought through many injuries. Very stupid of me, but I've done it myself. But having a corner coach in there who doesn't enable that is a good way of keeping you healthy long-term. For example, that's just one example. Perhaps there's a language barrier between the pit boss and the fighter. That's another job for your side coach, right? Where they can do the liaison and potentially avoid any misunderstandings. Hey, YouTube, we have a free Discord just for you. Wow. And please like and subscribe, because if you don't like and subscribe, well, I'll never ever get my LAVO and I'll be sad. 5, the immediate first aid person. This is yet another hat you as a side coach corner coach or whatever you want to call it will like, what do I mean by this? Sometimes the athlete gets injured, and not by sometimes. When an athlete inevitably gets injured, which they will do their best to hide it from you, generally speaking. The more competitive the athlete, the more they're going to work to hide it. I am speaking from personal experience. And I mean, I have had many students do the same to me and find out it's much worse later. Your job is to spot these things so the injury doesn't get worse. And you can't stop an athlete from competing, but you can definitely help them make decisions which mitigate that and guide them to having a better long-term outcome. With that said, sometimes injury is severe and then the athlete cannot continue. And that's when you become the liaison between pit boss, which they're going to probably be upset about and lash out at because they're hurt, and the medic, which they're going to probably be upset at and potentially lash out. You're going to be there being the liaison for all three of those parties. And yes, HEMA people, if you're watching this video and you're like, oh no, he said I have first aid. Yes, you should have first aid. Yep, if you're coaching, you should have first aid training. You should have certifications. You should be doing that because you're responsible for your athletes. Injuries can happen, and they will happen over the course of your career, so it's best to be ahead of it. Having good first aid training will lead to quicker return to play and better long-term results for your students. You should know the signs of concussion. If someone goes into cardiac arrest, you should have CPR training. I'll do a whole video on that another time. But get first aid training. All right, so time again. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers. You guys are awesome. Another big thanks to all of you guys watching. Took the time to subscribe. Again, you guys are awesome. And as always, train hard, fence easy. Hope you like our content. See you next time.